Hi there, it's Vicki Boutin here with a watercolor reduction technique process video. I'm going to be using some Vicki Boutin watercolor paintbrushes, stencil brush, and a stencil to create a fun background. It's super easy and I love how this turned out. So to get started, I selected a few paint colors from my watercolor set and I swatch all of these colors out so I know exactly what colors are in the tubes. So I have a paper that's kind of a blue-green and I selected 3 different paint colors that I thought matched the best. I can also mix these to make some new colors. I like these 3, a kind of 2 blues and a blue-green and a green. And I went ahead and selected those colors. You see that the numbers are on the tubes to coordinate with the swatch colors. With my watercolor or paintbrush set, you can make this card into a stand just by bending the card and folding it back. I love that when I'm using the brushes, so I can just slide them right back in there. And then I went ahead with a sheet of acetate for my blending palette. I just got that out of one of my packaging, or out of some packaging. And I have clean water and a paper towel to get started. So I went ahead and put the paints onto the sheet of acetate that I'm using as a palette. And then I'm just going to add a little water to blend them out. If you ever find that one of the tubes gets clogged, I just use a paper clip to get the paint flowing again. It's a handy little trick. And then just chose the brush I wanted to use, which is a larger round brush. And then I'm just going to create some watercolor. So I'm adding some water to these pigments and getting the consistency I like so I can start painting. So once I was ready, this background is actually brayered with gesso because I found that even though I'm using the foundations paper, which is a heavier weight, by putting the gesso on, it helps with building the water and the page not buckling. As well, it prevents pilling when I go in to do the reduction technique. So the gesso on this background certainly helps. And I just went in and on a very wet technique, added some watercolor paint in the different colors, and then let some of that bleed and blend, and then just kept loading the paint on. So heavier in some areas, more water in others, and then went ahead and just tapped some paint drops into the wet paint, because you will have, where it's dry, you'll have darker spots, and where it's wet, it actually wicks and blends, and it's kind of a fun technique. So once I was happy with where the color placement was, I went ahead and gave this a quick dry with my heat gun before I went into the next step. So I also went on, once it was dry, and loaded a couple more paint splats for depth in another color. Now that background's completely dry, I'm going to grab a stencil brush, a stencil, I'm using the script stencil, and clean water in a mister. So just go ahead and mist some water onto your background just to get that brush damp. So there's no pigment in that brush, it's actually just water. And what I'm doing is running it over in circular motion over the area with the watercolor, and then redistributing the pigment that I've picked up in a different corner. I love how that works. The actual pigment lifts off with the water and clean brush, but it's sitting in the bristles so I can redeposit it through other areas of the stencil. So I love how this background turned out. It was super easy. And now I'm just going to go ahead and build the layout. So I chose color to put on the base, and then I went on and put some washi tape on a sheet of black pattern paper, but left a little border at the top. So when I go through and punch it on my, using, pardon me, the border punch and just centering that piece, I have a really cool little scallop border with the metallic washi tape. So I'm going to go ahead and add a second piece of washi on top to add a little bit of color, and just add that to the bottom of the page. Now I cut all of these flowers out of a floral piece of pattern paper, and now I'm just kind of building the layout with some mats for my photo, and then positioning some of those flowers, because some of them aren't complete images from where I cut them with the paper. And then I went ahead and just added some elements with some foam squares and a title, and then just committed with adhesive and some 3D foam squares. So I love how this layout came together. I just kind of folded some of those edges, layered some ephemera pieces from the Vicki Boutin All the Good Things line, and then glued a little title in there and add a little floral swig, and then thought another piece of washi kind of as an afterthought would look nice there, so I went ahead and added that as well. And then just a little paper clip with some stickers on there to finish this layout out, or finish it off. And then I thought a little bit of metallic foam squares, or pardon me, foam thickers was a great way to finish. And then filled in a little bit of journaling on that page. I love how this came together. Super easy background, and worked really great with pattern paper. So thanks for joining me. I hope you give watercolor reduction a try, and I can't wait to see you next time when we make some more mixed media magic.